I tested 10 of the most talked about dividend ETFs of 2026 against 5 real market crashes. 9 of them either got wrecked or never lived long enough to face the real test at all. Only one fund survived every crash it was old enough to face and came out with the smallest loss of the entire group. Today I'm showing you exactly which one and exactly what the math says it matters more than the yield on the label. Here's the problem with most dividend ETF comparisons. They tend to show you the years when the market has been going up. So I went back and pulled the maximum drawdown, that's the biggest drop from a peak to a bottom, for 10 of the biggest dividend ETFs out there: Schwab's SCHD, Vanguard's VYM and VIG, iShares DVY-HDV and DGRO, the SPDR fund SDY, ProShares NOBL, which all track the dividend aristocrats, and the 2 covered call funds everybody's been asking about, JEPI and JEPQ. Before I show you the results, I have to be straight with you about something. Not all 10 of these funds have even been around long enough to face all 5 crashes. DVY has been trading since 2003, so it lived through the 2008 financial crisis, the 2011 debt downgrade panic, the 2018 sell-off, the COVID crash, and the 2022 bear market. That's the full 5. VYM and VIG launched in 2006, so they also caught all 5. SCHD didn't exist until October of 2011, so it missed the financial crisis completely. JEPI didn't launch until May of 2020, so the only real crash it has ever faced is 2022, and JEPQ launched in May of 2022 directly into that year's downturn, so it has never actually been tested by a full cycle at all. And remember, if someone tells you a 2-year-old fund is crash-proof, they're marketing, not measuring. So here's how I actually ran the test. For each fund, I looked at its maximum drawdown since its own inception date, meaning the worst peak-to-trough decline it has ever experienced, using total return data with dividends reinvested. Then I compared that number to the S&P 500 over the same stretch. A fund passes if it's still standing, still paying dividends, and lost meaningfully less than the market did along the way. Let's go fund by fund, starting with the ones that go back the furthest. DVY, the iShares Select Dividend ETF, has the longest track record here, dating back to 2003. It lived through the 2008 financial crisis, and it did not hold up. DVY's maximum drawdown since inception is 62.6%. That's actually worse than the S&P 500's own worst drawdown of 55.2% over a comparable period. A fund built around chasing the highest yields ended up leaning into some of the most fragile companies in the market at exactly the wrong moment. DVY fails the test. VYM, Vanguard's High Dividend Yield Fund, also goes back to 2006 and also caught the financial crisis. Its max drawdown sits at 57%. Basically identical to the broad market's worst decline. It survived, technically, but it didn't pass the test. VIG, Vanguard's Dividend Appreciation Fund, is a little different because it screens for companies with long dividend growth streaks rather than the highest yields. Its max drawdown comes in at 46.8% in 2008. Better than VYM and DVY, but still a nearly half of your money decline at the worst point. It cushioned the fall somewhat, but didn't pass either. SDY, the SPDRS and P Dividend ETF, launched in 2005 and also faced the financial crisis. Its max drawdown is 54.8%, basically matching the market. Another fund that survived the crash but offered no real protection while it was happening. Now we get to the funds that are simply too young to have faced 2008 or 2011 at all. HDV, iShares Core High Dividend Fund, launched in March of 2011. Its max drawdown since inception is 37%, which includes both the 2020 COVID crash and the 2022 bear market. That's a real improvement over the older funds, but it's still a bigger hit than our eventual winner. NOBL, the Dividend Aristocrats Fund, launched in October of 2013. Its max drawdown is 35.4%. Respectable, and it makes sense, because the Aristocrats Index only includes companies that have raised their dividend for at least 25 straight years. Those tend to be steadier businesses, so we don't see as big of a fall. DGRO, iShares Core Dividend Growth Fund, launched in 2014. Its max drawdown, which happened during the March 2020 COVID crash, was 35.1%, and it took about 161 trading sessions, roughly 8 months, to climb back to even. Now the two funds everybody's been asking me about. JEPI, the JP Morgan Equity Premium Income Fund, launched in May of 2020 and only has one real stress test on its record, the 2022 bear market. During that year, the S&P 500 fell about 18%, and JEPY lost only around 3.5%. Its max drawdown since inception is 13.7%. On paper, that's the smallest number on this entire list. But I want to be careful here, because that number is a little misleading. JEPI generates its income by selling call options against its holdings, which caps how much it can gain in a strong bull market in exchange for smoothing out the losses. It has never lived through a true multi-year bear market or a 2008-style credit crisis. A shallow drawdown from a fund that's mostly experienced a 5-year bull market isn't the same kind of evidence as a shallow drawdown from a fund that has actually been dragged through a real financial crisis. I'm not disqualifying JEPI, but I'm not calling it the winner, since a direct comparison wouldn't be fair. Because it's a very popular fund, I wanted to share the numbers. JEPQ, the NASDAQ version of that same strategy, launched directly into the 2022 downturn in May of that year, and immediately dropped as much as 20%. Because it holds tech-heavy NASDAQ 100 names, it doesn't get the same cushioning JEPI does. It's the youngest fund here and arguably the least tested. If you're finding this breakdown useful, hit subscribe and tap the like button now, because we're about to get to the fund that actually passes this test, and the reason why is going to change how you think about the word yield. So, as you might have guessed, that leaves us with SCHD, the Schwab U.S. Dividend Equity ETF. It launched in October of 2011, so it missed the financial crisis and the 2011 debt downgrade panic. What it has faced is the 2018 sell-off, the 2020 COVID crash, and the 2022 bear market, 3 real documented crashes. Here's how it did. During the COVID crash in March of 2020, SCHD fell about 35.7%, roughly in line with the broader market. Nothing special there, but in 2022, something different happened. While the S&P 500 fell about 18.2% for the year, SCHD lost only about 3.2%. That's a 15-point gap in a single calendar year during one of the worst bond and stock markets in decades. And here's the number that matters most for this whole video. SCHD's maximum drawdown since its inception, across every crash it has faced, is 33.4%. That is the smallest drawdown of every dividend fund tested that has an actual multi-year track record behind it. SCHD passes the test as the fund that lost the least. Why does this happen? SCHD's index only selects companies that have paid a dividend for at least 10 straight years, then screens hard on cash flow, return on equity, and debt levels before weighting by dividend size. It's not chasing the highest yield in the market. It's chasing the companies healthy enough to keep paying you no matter what the economy is doing. Now let's talk about why a smaller drawdown is worth more than people realize, because the math here is not intuitive. If a fund drops 33.4%, it needs a gain of about 50% just to get back to where it started. That's painful, but doable. If a fund drops 62.6%, like DVY did, it needs a gain of about 167% just to break even. Almost triple your money just to get back to zero. The deeper the hole, the more disproportionately hard it is to climb out. That's the entire argument for owning a fund with a shallower crash, even if its long-term average return looks similar on a chart during the good years. Let's put real numbers behind this so you can see what it means for your own money. Say you're contributing $500 a month into SCHD, reinvesting every dividend automatically through a DRIP, a dividend reinvestment plan, so each payout buys you more shares instead of sitting in cash. Using a conservative 8% average annual return, after 10 years you'd have around $91,473. After 20 years, around $294,510. After 30 years, around $745,180. Now, if we use SCHD's own historical annualized return since inception, which has run closer to 11%, those same monthly contributions turn into roughly $108,499 after 10 years, $432,819 after 20 years, and $1,402,260 after 30 years. I want to be clear that an 11% return isn't guaranteed going forward. Markets don't move in a straight line, and past performance never guarantees future results. That's exactly why I ran this whole test on drawdowns in the first place. The return only matters if you're still holding the fund when the recovery happens. Now I have to be honest about the risks, because no dividend fund is bulletproof. SCHD still dropped nearly 36% during COVID. If you need the money in the next year or two, a nearly 40% hole is not something you want to be climbing out of. SCHD's index gets reconstituted once a year, which means the specific companies inside it can change, and a stretch of years where growth stocks dominate, like 2023 through 2025, can leave SCHD lagging a fund like VOO by a wide margin. This is not a fund that is trying to win every year. It's a fund that is trying to lose less in the bad years, and that's a completely different goal than chasing the highest possible return. It's also worth remembering that SCHD pays its dividend quarterly, not monthly. If you're building an income plan around exact payment timing, check the actual quarterly payout dates rather than assuming a check shows up every 30 days. And one more honest note. This test only covers the crashes each fund actually lived through. SCHD hasn't faced a true 2008-style financial crisis yet. Nobody knows exactly how its current holdings would perform in a credit crisis that severe. What we do know is that in every real stress test it has faced so far, it has come out with less damage than 9 other well-known dividend funds, some of which are a decade or more older. If you're just getting started and $500 a month feels out of reach, don't let that stop you from beginning. Even $50 a month into a fund like this, left alone and reinvested for 20 or 30 years, builds real momentum, because the shape of the compounding curve matters more than the size of the first contribution. The people who build the biggest accounts almost never started with the biggest checks. They started early, and they didn't sell when the fund dropped 30%, because they understood the drawdown was the price of admission, not a sign they'd made a mistake. One question I know is coming in the comments. Does passing this test mean you should sell everything else and go all in on one fund? Not necessarily. Owning SCHD alongside a broad market fund like VOO is a common way people balance this out, since SCHD tends to soften the bad years while a total market fund tends to capture more of the good ones. The point of today's test isn't to tell you to abandon every other dividend fund. It's to show you that the marketing around crash-proof dividend investing rarely survives contact with the actual numbers, and that checking a fund's real drawdown history before you commit your money to it takes 10 minutes and can save you years of recovery time later. So, to recap, 10 dividend ETFs, 5 real market crashes going back to 2008. Most of these funds either weren't old enough to face the real tests, or they were old enough and still took a beating close to the broad market's own worst decline. SCHD is the only fund in this group that faced multiple real crashes and came out with the smallest drawdown of the entire field at 33.4%, built on a quality-first index that filters for companies healthy enough to keep paying you through the storm. If this video showed you something useful today, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.